welcome to today's episode of Authentic Achievements, where I'm joined by the fabulous Sue Kirchner. Sue, hello.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to this. I know every time we have a conversation, it's always jam-packed with insight. But before we get into that, because I know we can, let me introduce you a little bit broader to our audience watching and listening. So Sue is a business growth strategist who helps emerging businesses create wow brands, allowing them to scale faster, easier, and more successfully. As the founder of Brand Strong Marketing, her proven methods enables organizations to attract the right customers and employees, to enter new markets successfully, and create an amazing customer and colleague experience, increasing sales to take the business to the next level consistently. On the back of that experience, she's writing a forthcoming book, which is pulling together the 25 years of experience helping small, mid-sized companies accelerate their growth by focusing on identifying, communicating, and delivering on their brand. Sue, tell us more about your journey and how you got here, please.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Who doesn't love talking about themselves, right? But yeah, so I've had kind of an interesting journey to get here because I've been allowed to do things that other people might not necessarily get to do in their career. So kind of excited, but I'll just start with what kind of defines me or really pushes my passion for people and organizations are different. There are always differences that you can find and extrapolate on to help build your brand. But one of the things that I think kind of defines me is I grew up in Latin America. So I'm not Latin American, but my father worked for Motorola, and he would go into Puerto Rico and he went into Mexico and he would start up these factories. And so that allowed me to spend my formative years from about fourth grade until 11th grade in high school, living in another country, learning another language, seeing how other people and cultures, grow and thrive and interact with each other. And that kind of led me into what I wanted to study in college then, which was I have a Spanish degree as something easy to do at the point. But then I was also interested in, again, this whole idea about differences and talking about things that other people don't know about. Because when I would come back to the United States, and talk to my friends, they had no concept of what it was like to live in another country or even where this other country was. So I would love to tell stories and try and get them up to speed about what it was like to grow up, to be living there and things like that. So I wanted to get into storytelling. And I thought at the time that, gosh, I'm going to go into advertising copywriting. That sounds like something, at the time I was like, okay, that's a job where you can get paid to write other than just being a novelist or something like that. So I got my degree in journalism because there was no advertising copywriting degree at the time. But I'm glad I did because it helped me so much with my current profession on that is that with the journalism degree, I was able to understand how to do research, how to ask questions, how to probe people. That sounded bad, but how to probe to find the answers to what you really wanted to know or to hear from somebody as you're going. So anyway, so after college, right out of school, I went to Motorola. I went to work there in their marketing department. Since I was the only one who spoke Spanish, I was allowed to do all Latin American marketing for cell phones, which at the time in the early 90s was when they were taking off. That was when they introduced the flip phone and everybody was excited about cellular and everybody had to have one. So I was able to then touch and be able to, at a very early age, do all different facets of marketing, whether it was working with distributors, whether it was doing advertising, whether it was doing trade shows, PR, creating marketing communications materials. It was wonderful to have that wide breadth of experience instead of being focused in on just doing PR or just doing advertising. So that was wonderful. And I worked at Motorola for a number of years, helping them with cell phones and two-way radios. But then Motorola decided at a certain point that they wanted to have all of their Latin American marketing and operations and anyone who interfaced with them, they wanted them all in Miami. And I live in Chicago. I did not want to move to Miami or anywhere else in Florida at the time. So I was like, all right, well, again, I have something different and a different experience than I've seen what other people in the Chicago job market had, which was I know how to help US companies sell in Latin America. And so I started my first entrepreneurial journey, of which a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're going to start your own business. You're going to leave corporate America. Why would you do that? And it was one of those where I was just like, you know what? What's the worst that's going to happen? I try for 6 months to build a consulting business around Latin American marketing. And if it doesn't work, I go find that job that I'm going to have to go find anyway because my job is moving to Florida. So anyway, so I started out on consulting. I had some great mentors who helped me to figure out what consulting meant. And it was absolutely wonderful. But after a certain amount of time, I had children, didn't want to travel that much to Latin America anymore. And that's when I then leveraged my marketing experience and got into brand strategy. Which was important. It was a friend of mine who worked for an ad agency said, hey, the ad agency owner is trying to spin off and create this brand strategy firm. Would you be interested in working there? And I did for a year. It was a great experience. I met a bunch of other people. We created this business. We created the process. We learned all about brand strategy, how to sell it, and things like that. But at the end of the year, the business owner decided, yeah, it's not growing fast enough. I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. So again, my first kind of entrepreneurial, experience of being part of building a business, but then seeing that it didn't go anywhere fast enough. But there were a couple of us who said, you know what, let's try and do this ourselves. We just put all this energy and effort and work into it, and we love what we're doing. Let's build our own brand strategy firm. And so we did for a number of years. We had a company called Identity 3.0. Because at that time, Fast Company with, company at 2.0 and all this kind of stuff, everybody was on, okay, it's the next generation of identity and branding and things like that. So we did that for a number of years. And again, gaining more experience on how to build a firm, how to sell something intangible, and it was absolutely a wonderful experience to build this brand strategy firm. And it went successfully for about 5 years. A couple of my business partners had to leave for personal reasons and things like that. And then at that time, I then said, all right, well, I'm the only one left standing here at this brand strategy firm. But with small children, I want to see if I can actually build my own brand. Can I do that? Can I put my money where my mouth is and build a brand? But with small children, I didn't want to have a big office downtown anymore. And, so I decided to take a leap and start my own business. It was an online retail firm because, again, at that time, anybody can go into online retail. So I created a company called Chocolate Cake Club, which we did not sell chocolate cake. What we sold was products that would help busy families spend more time together having fun so that they felt like they were eating chocolate cake and enjoying their life and things like that. So I loved it. I was so passionate about that firm, building the brand. It resonated so deeply with busy working moms who was my target market. And it just was absolutely wonderful. And I learned all about, if you have a website, how do you drive people to it? So that was a great experience and lesson learned. But again, as time goes on, Amazon kind of shut down a lot of very small internet retailers. And I was forced to, after about 7 years of growth, and then not growth, to shut that down. And it was, kind of devastating at the time because I'd never had a business who kind of, I don't want to say failed, but just didn't grow where it needed to grow, due to unforeseen circumstances and things like that. So, but I, said, you know what, I'm not done. I want to make sure that I can continue to build a business and grow. And so I created Brand Strong Marketing, which was definitely started as a way to say, all right, what do I know in life? What are my experiences? I know how to brand. I know how to define an ideal market. And I know that if you, with digital marketing and how that changed the entire marketing landscape and sales landscape, I know how to drive people to a website. And that was then the genesis of Brand Strong Marketing. And I love it. I've been doing this for almost 9 years, or this iteration for almost 9 years now. But I feel like it is the culmination of every step that I've had along the way of seeing, businesses, how they market themselves, how they tell their story, how they grow, how they deliver a customer experience. I'm able to now aggregate that after 25 something years and present a great solution to companies who really want to grow.
I love that. And I love that, what comes out throughout about your story is the power of storytelling. The one thing that I've always thought is the thing that connects us all globally, irrelevant of our age, our race, our gender, our culture, is we teach and we learn through stories. So being able to help pull out that story and then share that story with the world is a really great way of helping people to connect, isn't it?
Yes.
And it sounds like that's something that has kind of really been prevalent throughout the journey that you've had, and sounds like is also very prevalent in now how you help other organizations in finding their story and then amplifying it. Would that be fair?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if you want to sell anything, whether it's a product or a service or a change initiative internally, or if you want to sell an idea even, you have to tell that story, and you have to be able to articulate it so that you can get somebody else excited about it, so that they want to help you. And that's what I love doing. And what I love about brand strategy too, or what I love about working with my clients, is it's not just telling a story about what you do. You have to sit down and you have to understand the audience and say, how is this story relevant to them? How is this story going to make them feel? How is this story going to fit into their life so that they want to embrace your idea or sell, buy your product, or follow you on that change initiative and things like that. So yeah, I absolutely love all of the components of storytelling, which is you need to understand your audience, and then you need to understand the structure of how you get your ideas across. And then you need to figure out what is the best mechanism for telling your story, because sometimes that's different for, people. So.
I love that, because we are all different as well, aren't we? We learn in different ways. So some of us might be more visual, some of us might be more auditory. And I often think, I talk a lot about the power of storytelling in leadership, and it's about, again, creating that story and sometimes having to tailor that story for your audience. A little bit like, I always liken it to, you've written a book and you now want that book to be able to be sold around the world, but for it to resonate with an audience in a different country, you might need to make some minor tweaks to it. So you don't change the main story, because if not, it's just a different book. But you might have to change some elements of it so that it resonates. So does that translate across to brand strategy and things that you're doing
Absolutely. There? Absolutely. Because I tell my clients, your brand promise, what you tell people they're going to experience when they interact with your organization, that should always stay the same. That brand promise of why you started your business, what you're passionate about, what you want people to experience should stay the same. However, if you're talking to an employee, the way that you tell that story might be a little different, because how that brand is going to affect them is a little different than how it's going to affect a customer, or how it might affect an investor who's interested in investing in your business, or even a referral partner. So yes, I used to have, or when we used to do these deliverables for clients, we used to have, here's your brand promise. And now here's your brand promise translator, meaning how do you take that and then write the key messaging in a way that's most relevant to that audience? It's still promising the same thing, but it's telling the story in a different way that attracts that type of audience more effectively.
I love that, because it's all in how well the receiver receives, isn't it?
Yes.
Often we deliver a message and we can get very frustrated that the person didn't get it. And it's like, no, the problem is you didn't deliver it right. You didn't explain it in a way that they understood. And we've got to be able to, it's been a great eye-opener for me. My little girl's just turned 7. Trying to explain things to a 7-year-old, you really have to know them. know what you're saying, to get it
Yes.
across. If not, they take everything just so literally that it's been
Yes.
that's been a real help for me in improving my communication. But I love that whole translator and how you're able to already think about actually what would this look like if I were explaining it to this group of people or to this group of people, so that actually people want to see themselves in the story, don't they? They want to
Absolutely.
see that the story resonates for them.
Yeah, no matter who you're talking to, they want to be the hero of the story. Even if you're talking about yourself, you have to translate it in a way that makes them the hero of the story. And yeah, it's exciting. And it's funny, building on what you were just talking about. A professor told me a long time ago, and you know how certain things people say just stick with you forever, kind of a
Yeah.
thing. Well, professor I'd had at the time said, you know, when it comes to communication problems, the messenger is the problem.
Yeah.
If there is a communication problem, it's the person who is delivering the communication. It's always their fault because they either didn't get the feedback that they weren't being understood, or they didn't deliver it clearly and things like that. So I always loved that, and it stuck with me. Now, I have to say, you were talking about your daughter. I have to say, sometimes my husband and I use that as a way to passive aggressively say, no, the problem started with the messenger. That's why I didn't understand what you were telling me. So
Oh, I love that. Because I think we do, don't we? We sometimes we find those catchphrases. And I remember many years ago being told I didn't have the vocabulary to actually be as successful as I could be in kind of corporate life. So I went and learned a whole new vocabulary, and then realized that the people that I led no longer understood me. Because I would sit there and say things like, well, there's a plethora of opportunities. And I think at one point I told somebody that I ran a peripatetic team, and they thought I was telling them they were pathetic. And I was like, no, you're remote. Could you not just say remote? And I was like,
yes.
Yeah, I probably could. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things, don't we, in our desire to make things look better or more impressive than perhaps they were, particularly in the way our society is driving that desire for perfection, for something bigger than it is. Is that something that you have to help clients with when you're bringing their brand stories to life?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, I like to say that when I do my upfront initial brand identification process with the CEO and the executive team for a small business and things like that, I like to say that, you know what, my job here is to be the mirror, is to hold up this mirror and say, I want you to see yourself as others see you. And once you can see yourself as others see you, then you can build on the perception or change the perception that they have. And it may be that, yes, you have to tweak your messaging. You have to make it more relevant for that particular customer. Or you have to sit down and say, you know what? You absolutely fell in love with this one aspect of your business, but you're the only one. That's not other people, your customers, your employees, other people are in love with different aspects of your business. And you need to understand that. And you need to figure out a way to then build on it and communicate it to other people. So, yeah, it's definitely, I love the part of my job where I come in and can say, you know what, here is what your organization does amazingly well after I talked to your customers, after I talked to your employees or any other important stakeholder group that you have, is to say, you know what, you started your business for a reason. And as a business owner, as CEO, you're constantly dealing with problems and issues, and day to day it just drags you down, and certain days you're like, oh my gosh, why am I still doing this? But then I can come in and say, you know what, it matters, it's working. This is what your brand stands for. This is what your organization is absolutely amazing at, and how can we make it more amazing? Or how do we just continue to tell the story of how amazing you are to the ideal client who will find that valuable?
I love that. So you made me so smile. It reminded me of many years ago standing up in front of a room full of people, and much to my boss's utter horror.
Yeah.
Because I was the UK head of sales at the time, I said to them, the first thing you need to realize is nobody actually wants our product. And they all just looked at me and were like, what on earth? And I was like, well, let me explain what I mean. I said, we were an accounting software organization. I said, unless you're an accountant, you didn't go into business to do accounts. So you need our product, but you don't want our product. So we can't try and be the next Apple. We can't create this design. No one's going to sleep outside HMV all night waiting for the next version because it's accounting software. I said, we've got to understand that actually what they want is more time in their organization. What they want is more time with their customers. So helping people understand, to your point, you did it so beautifully, that piece that says you might think this is the thing that's really important, but the thing your customers value, the thing that they see is amazing, is something completely different. And until you're in alignment, your message is going to miss the mark, isn't it?
Exactly. You have, yeah, they, like you said, they don't really care about you or your product or your service. What they care about is what it can do for them. How is it going to make my life easier? And then how is that going to make me feel? That's where the magic happens with branding, is to say, you have to understand that your product or service does something for people. And what is that? And who wants that? Once you understand all of those components, now you can spend money on marketing and really try and highlight what it is that makes you different, and see your business grow, see your sales, augment and accelerate and things like that. So it's yeah, it is opening. I always say that, and I don't know, it's been 25 years of learning. It's not about me, right? It's about what other people want, and I love being able to do that with my clients, is to say, stop. You just told me every feature about your product, and I know you're super proud of that. And a lot of engineering work went into that, and that's all amazing. But as someone who's going to potentially buy it or use it, that doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is, like you said, it's going to save me time, or it's going to save me money, or it's going to make me look beautiful, or it's going to make me look amazing to my boss so I can get a promotion, or it's those feelings and emotions. That's why people buy a product or buy a service. And so you have to tap into that. So your features and your product is amazing. Well, what is it doing for someone? That's what you're selling.
I love that, because we think we're such logical beings, and that we make all of our decisions very logically and factually, and yet the reality is our emotional brain responds 24 times faster than our thinking brain. So we always respond with how it's made us feel, and then we justify how we feel with what we do next. And I love that actually you know that, and therefore you're bringing that the other way around and saying, well, actually, let's work on how they want to feel. And then explain that to them, because that is going to be how they make their decision in the first instance anyway. Is that's what they're aspiring for, either that feeling of the problem is solved, or that feeling of that desire has been granted. Either one of those is going to probably be what's driving them to look for something that we can help them with, isn't it?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating for people. I mean, same thing with myself. I sometimes have to get outside help and counsel to get out of my head and say, what is it that I'm delivering, and the value that I can bring to people. But yeah, it's definitely one of those where you have to say, take a step back. What is this product or service doing? Okay, you just told me what the benefit is, but still, what is the benefit of the benefit that you just talked about? And you really keep trying to drive them to get at that core emotion that you can deliver with your product or service, because that's where the magic in the brand is being able to figure out that emotional trigger that makes people want to buy and buy from you.
I love that, because that's the bit that makes you and makes you unique, doesn't it? You've had such an amazing and varied journey already. What would you say has been your greatest achievement in work?
Yeah. I think my greatest achievement has been being able to have a career, build a number of businesses that were mine. That has been mine, and my greatest achievement has been learning from each one of those businesses along the way. So even when I had to sadly close one, or move on from another, it's being. I am most proud of being able to stop and say, okay, what have I learned? How can I reinvent myself if I'm reinventing myself? And then how do I, more importantly, take those learnings to help somebody else? And so my other proudest achievement is looking back at my client list and being able to say, wow, all of these companies have been able to continue to grow after I have come in and helped them tell their story more effectively and understand their brand and understand who their ideal target market is. And just not that this is my proudest achievement, but there have been moments where I'm presenting to the CEO and to the executive team, and I'm coming back after doing all the research and analysis, and I'm saying, okay, here's what your brand is. And after I'm presenting, they're crying. And
Oh,
it's just, it's, one of those amazing feelings to say, I helped them fall in love with their business again.
yeah,
This
yeah.
is why they started it. This is the value that they are providing to their customers. And to be able to give them that gift of saying, oh my gosh, yes, this is why we do this. This is why we will continue to move forward and expand and grow and invest, because we can make a difference to our customers.
Oh, I love that. I got goosebumps because it reminds me of the one thing that I believe of all of us is that at our core, we want to be listened to, we want to be understood, and we want to be respected. And when you're playing that back to them, when people are crying, it's because they feel listened to, understood, and respected.
Yes.
And we know that we have those moments. I was watching a movie yesterday, and it was just a Christmas movie, but there was a moment where you saw the parents' eyes, and they were like so proud and so emotional. And it takes you right back to how you feel when you're watching the same thing, because you get
Yeah.
it, you
Yeah.
connect on that level, don't you? And I think
Yeah.
the fact that you do that for clients, and then they're able to then take that out and amplify it, must just be the greatest feeling in the world.
It is. It is. And then, the key is to say, okay, well, now that I've made you emotionally connect with your business again, how do we then, let's build on it. Let's get the employees as emotionally connected. Let's get your customers as emotionally connected, and let's work on that strategy. So,
Amazing. And it is all of that, isn't it? So with
yeah,
within any organization, you've got to get to the hearts and minds of what the organization wants,
yeah,
or the company, what the clients want, and what the colleagues want. And when you can get all of that singing the same way, to your
yeah.
point earlier, that's really where the magic happens, isn't it?
Exactly. That's when you can brand strong. That's when your growth just starts to accelerate and to take off. So it is. It's, whether you call it magic, tipping point, whatever it is, when you can get all of that in alignment, um, companies grow, and they're amazing what they can do.
Amazing. So if I'm a company out there thinking about when would be a good time to start? When should I bring in somebody like you to help me understand and therefore amplify my brand story?
Yeah. So there's a couple of reasons when I think it's essential to bring in a brand strategist or invest in that. So the first is you have opportunities to grow. Let's say you've been in business a while, you've made it maybe to the $1 million mark, and now you really have opportunities to take off and scale. Get your story straight, because your marketing and your story has probably not been changed since you started the organization, and I'm sure it's different. So this is the time to invest and say, all right, we're going to need to spend money on marketing or hiring new salespeople. We need to get that story straight, and understand our value and who we're going to be targeting. So that's one. The second is, you might be at the point where you're entering a new market. Let's say you've decided to expand and go into a new geographical market, or you're upscaling who your customer is, or going international, anything like that. In that point, you have one chance to make a first great impression. So make sure your brand story is strong.
Mm.
Another could be that you're going through a merger and acquisition. Let's say your growth strategy is to absorb a competitor, or to move forward. And people often forget in those M&A deals that there are human beings involved in all aspects of that transition. So you need to be communicating to the new employees coming in, your existing employees, new customers, old customers. You need to tell them why this is such a great transaction and how it's going to make their lives better. And so that's another big reason to bring in a brand strategist. And then the last reason to bring in a brand strategist is maybe you're not necessarily not growing, but you're not hitting the targets that you have, whether that be bringing in new customers or bringing in employees. Even employer branding, especially before COVID and during COVID, has become a very big concern for companies. Is the fact that I could grow if I could bring new top talent in, but no one knows who our company is. We don't know how to talk about why this is such a great place to work, and it's stalling our growth. And so I've come in and helped small businesses sit down and say, let's do this whole branding process, but instead of focusing on attracting customers, we're focusing on attracting top talent. What does your brand offer to employees, and let's really blow that strategy and that message out.
I love that, because we often think of one and not the other, don't we? And actually,
Yeah.
unless you get them all singing together, and if they don't make sense, if they're not cohesive, then people start to doubt it, don't they? So I often use the phrase, if your lips and hips don't match, what I say and what I do aren't the same, then people are going to go, well, something's off here. So if our brand promise to our clients doesn't mirror the brand promise to our colleagues in a not to be the same, but as in to follow the same value set, to follow the same desire of kind of experience that we deliver, then we're not going to be successful, are we? Because we're not going to deliver on that promise to either.
Exactly. I mean, the brand it's more than just the messaging. It is the culmination of the message and the experience. And if you are breaking that messaging in any way, shape, or form, whether it's, as you said, the way you treat your employees, or the way you deliver the customer experience, or even as simple as the way you answer the phone, all of that adds up to say, wait a minute, they said they were great at this in their marketing, but they're not. I don't see where the greatness is. And suddenly now you've broken that brand, and you've destroyed that perception that you spent so much money and effort trying to create.
I love that. And it's so hard to build, isn't it? And so easy to break.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
which is true of all the best things in life, isn't it?
All the best things in life.
But I think it's that, I love that one of the other things that's kind of come out so clearly through your journey and through helping your clients is that constant learning and iteration, of being able to look at every situation and saying, okay, what can we take from this? What can we take that actually we can use again because it's great? What can we take that says, maybe we do that differently this time, this iteration. We need to move something through, and that allowing you therefore to constantly keep moving forward. And it strikes me that you have that passionate curiosity about everything that you do, about the kind of businesses you've ran, the businesses that you support now, about the stories and why they resonate with people. How important do you think curiosity is in what you do and in how you actually really help people to hit that sweet spot of where they want to get to?
Yeah, it is absolutely essential. I am curious. I love bringing a new client on and just digging in and getting to understand their business, their culture, their customer base, their industry. I love that research part of it, and the curiosity. But then I also love you have to be curious from a standpoint of, you have to be willing to open your mind and just listen to what people say. So when I'm doing the interviews about, well, why is this company so great? Why do you work with them? What do you think their brand is? You have to be curious enough to just listen to everything they say, because they may say something that is just pure gold, and you need to be able to recognize it and write it down. But you also need to be able to dig deeper. Again, we're trying to get at the brand touches your emotions. And most people don't like to talk about their emotions, especially in a business context, right? So you have to be curious enough that when they say, oh, I love working with this company because of this. Well, why? Why does that matter to you? Let's dig a little deeper. Let's, I'm really curious. What does that do for you? How has that helped you in your career that you worked with this company and things like that? And so being curious allows you to be able to dig deep enough to find those moments, or to find those nuggets of gold where you're like, that's it. That's the brand. This is what they do and why they're an amazing company to their customers.
I love that. And it so often is, isn't it? Where, I mean, we do very different things, but I have similar moments where if you really listen to the person and they come out with absolute gold and they've absolutely got it, they've just not seen it. Right. They've not heard it in the same way that you have. And when you play it back to them, they're like, oh my God, it's like you're in my head. And it's like, no, I just really listened.
I really listened. And it's, it's one of those things where you can go to a client. It's like, you need to talk to your customers more often, because they've got it. They know what you're good at. And they are actually talking about you in a way that has made you successful to this point. So listen to them, grab onto that insight and run with it. So
I love it. Sue, I could chat to you all day, as you know, but I'm very conscious of your time. So before we wrap up and ask people how they can get in touch with you, could you just share with us, if there were one piece of advice that you would like to go back and give yourself earlier in your entrepreneurial journey, what would it be?
Yeah, the piece of advice I would give myself is learn how to sell. Because when you take that entrepreneurial journey, you are your biggest salesperson, or maybe even only salesperson, and things like that. And yeah, it's when I first started an entrepreneurial journey, I'm like, oh, I'm just going to say what I do and business is going to come my way. Well, it doesn't work that way. And I spent so much time, learning about branding and storytelling and how do you attract an audience, whether that's a customer or a colleague, a partner, whatever that is. Spent so much time learning how to attract, but then I didn't spend time focusing on building my skills. Well, then what do you do after you've attracted them? How do it's like, how do you then, take it to the next level, close that deal? That's definitely something I would have said at the very beginning is take sales classes, find a sales coach, do something that helps give you the confidence, the courage, whatever it is, to be able to go out and say, hey, I can do amazing things for you, and here's how. It's just something that I wish I could go back and have added more of that. And I think I would have solved a lot of more, sleepless nights and pain and doubting myself and imposter syndrome and all those things that happen when we're a business owner. It's just having the confidence to sell.
It's true, isn't it? And I think one of our biggest concerns, I say, having run sales teams for like 25 years, one of our biggest concerns is we don't like to sell because we don't like to be sold to.
Correct.
And therefore, our biggest fear is we're going to turn into the thing that we hate most, which is someone is going to sell to us. And actually, what the art is getting people to buy, because we don't mind buying things.
Right.
We don't want to be sold to, and it's a subtlety, isn't it? But once we can get ourselves into that place, it says, actually, what I'm going to do is put the information out there in such a way that buyers know what's available and therefore can make an informed choice. Versus I'm going to be in this place, and we've all seen it with somebody connects with you on LinkedIn and then immediately can solve all of the problems in the world that you've got without having first said hello or checked whether or not you have any of those problems. And you're like, would you do that if you walked up to me in a bar and you didn't know me? Would you literally just blurt out like everything you can do to save my life, or would you maybe just say hello?
Yeah,
it's lovely to meet you.
You start with a conversation. Yeah, I definitely say that. It's you get more asking people what's going on in their life, and then you can respond to it versus coming and saying, "Hey, you know how cool I am? I do this, 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 and this." It's like, yeah, okay, great. Yeah, I'm happy for you.
Sue, it's been amazing to chat to you. So if anybody's out there that's really looking to be able to, would you say, re-fall in love with their business and kind of really get clarity on that story and be able to create that story in such a way that people can move into the buying space? They can actually see what there is that is available and therefore make that informed choice. Are they the kind of clients that you're looking for?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
Yes.
how do they get in touch with you? I will obviously make sure everything is in the notes below, but what's the best way for them to reach out and start that journey?
Yeah, the best way to reach out and start that journey is my website, brandstrongmarketing.com. They can certainly find me on LinkedIn, Sue Kirchner, and message me through either one of those, or email directly, sue@brandstrongmarketing.com. Those are all ways that I love being able to have an initial consultation with people, because again, it goes back to that curiosity and love of learning. Is I just like to, have a conversation with people and say, hey, what's going on with you? And what do you wish your business could do? And maybe there's a way I can help you.
I love that. I think that's why we get on so well. Yeah, one of my greatest joys in life is hearing other people's stories. That's why I love doing things like this, because I get to meet amazing people like you and hear your story. And what's not to love about that? Because we learn something in every conversation, don't we? Sue, it has been an absolute joy. I'm really looking forward to our next conversation. But thank you for being here with us. And for everybody watching and listening, we'll make sure that all of the ways to contact Sue are in the notes below. And thank you for being here with us. Until next time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Take care.